the delight of destruction. A world enamoured by the thought of World War III. This has been the case for decades. The trend of apocalyptic themes within pop culture has only intensified in the last 30 years. Couple that with a proliferation of discussion over conspiracies and a general distrust of the elites, and it is clear to see that we have a general population that deep down inside want the collapse to unfold and to wipe away the iniquity of the Western consumeristic, stakeholder capitalist paradigm. Moreover, we have a great schism between the rich and poor, and this is leading to a further variable within the near future collapse of the West, although it is certainly declining at this point. I discussed something similar in my book, a part that was written back in mid-2020, where I remarked that, like the Romans, the US would begin to give up its hold on its eastern and hinterland territories, that land which contains its most far-flung and remote military bases. Inexorably, I further extrapolated that the United States would end up reneging on their oaths to their eastern allies, the Europeans, and it would fracture their empire and hegemony. The tide of the upstart Ariviste power bloc to the east would eventually pick apart the empire and attack its heartland in North America, just like the Roman heartland of the Italian peninsula was annexed and sacked at the end of Western Rome. However, I have come to realise with further study that the most important parallel between Rome and the American Empire is that both empires and civilizations were artificially broken apart in a piecemeal fashion by an aristocratic class who were more worried about pilfering the coffers than standing shoulder to shoulder with their fellow countrymen in defence of their homeland. I cannot prove this conclusively, but the evidence I have scoured through makes clear to me that there was a greater rot at the heart of the Roman ruling class, like the US's, and this is what led to the final dissolution of the Roman state and the Roman cultural traditions. As another set of points from another discussion, another's initial response would collide with the strategic backpedaling as well, time for the next act in the script. My response: I agree, we are seeing the dawn of the next act of this script. It seems that this certain event that we've been going through for the past 2 years may well have been a way to ease us into a wartime-like scenario, to which we would be denied luxury and privileges once enjoyed, and it was a sort of litmus test for mass conformity, without question, to follow the government into hell and back, if they commanded it so. Now, we may find the next chapter of this nightmare, the new crisis in which they can put to use the environment they cultivated during this event, whatever it may be. It will make this look like heaven compared to it. That is how it always has been. The preceding crisis has always been more shocking than the last. We may be wrong though. They may just simply end this crisis with no transition to another crisis. I do not see it as likely. This bankrupt system is kept afloat via catastrophism. It is its lifeblood. Catastrophist capitalism, or some sort of quasi-fascism at this point. Another's response: I share the exact same thoughts. This ease on restrictions will mark the next phase for the overarching contextual transformation. People are subverted enough in order for them to follow up with a fluid transition into the bigger and more crucial agendas, like the Green Revolution and transhumanism. After people legitimised the tyranny of the elites with their own compliance for long enough, and have been successfully broken psychologically, the most efficient way forward is to shift this from pandemic to endemic. People will be conditioned into the last episode of this transitionary events script, which entails lifelong and endless medical fascism, where everyone accepts masks, testing and needlecrafts as a vital and indispensable part of everyday life. More and more, the medical boogeyman will get pushed into the background, while other things will take centre stage focus. They already achieved the fundamental needed catalytic effects by Hegelian dialectic, and by that laid most of the groundwork for the future they envisioned since centuries past. For now, certain point of no return for the collective hive mind will allow them to cannibalise the transitionary event narrative at any given point, literally making it possible to always ignite a new outbreak variant whenever needed, making it another tool in their toolbox for total control. The only untransparent part really is to speculate on what tool they will use next and when exactly, as most of the control tactics rely on a cyclical approach, where they implement what is precisely customised to the respective situation. May it be a supply crisis with a cyber polygon-like event, engineered climate catastrophes, or something different altogether. The poster posts a study on Pacific Eclipse, a contagion response exercise conducted in 2019 that centred around the narrative of an outbreak of smallpox emerging from Fiji. He states that this transition could indeed be a likely one. My response: I have thoughts that once they begin some sort of conflict, that they will then, on the back of that, shut off the internet, the food supply, financial system crash, etc. This they will blame on the effects of war. China will most likely become the unitary hegemon of the world on the back of this conflict. Without the threat or imposition of a global conflict, I do not think it possible to bring the world and all of its citizens, truther and normie alike, into the system they have planned for us. This transitionary event, as I said, seems to be a test run. Recall too, once this global conflict is entered into, the entirety of at least the US military is needlecrafted at this point, and we can only imagine the true potential of this sort of sleeper agent inside of each and every able-bodied service person. As we see though, the people ruling this world are utterly insane and would choose to see the world burn, just so they could rule over the ashes. If it was preferable for their long-term strategic outlook, that is, the quote, Pacific Eclipse, and the smallpox narrative links with that predictive programming clip from the 05 game, Area 51, the one I included at the end of my NANO patch part 2 video. They bring forth the smallpox from the sleeper agent, that which lies dormant until activated, implanted within the majority of individuals, under the guise of a medical emergency prior. That would make a potential global conflict very interesting, to say the least. Although, whatever happens, we can see that the US is being artificially collapsed by its ruling class for a wholly nefarious purpose, naturally, but for what reason we can only truly speculate. Green revolution and transhumanism. Yes, those are the most important planks of their agenda, by far. In fact, the new system they envision hinges upon them as a sort of excuse for the techno-fascism they wish for. Quote, after people legitimise the tyranny of the elites with their own compliance for long enough and have been successfully broken psychologically, the most efficient way forward is to shift this from pandemic to endemic, unquote. Broken is the centerfold word. This is what this was all about, in a deeper sense. To break the spirit, to break the mind, and thus to rein in and control the physical vessel.